Hello, YouTube. Catherine here, and I've also invited a couple of friends, Arielle and David, to do some dream work with me. I think this will probably wrap up a series of videos about dreams that I've uploaded. Check those out if you haven't already. But yeah, I just wanted to give sort of an example of how dream work actually works in practice. So you can just see real time somebody's dream being analyzed, how it might work if you were doing this with friends or in a group. And Arielle and I will be the analysans. And did I get that right? The analysts? The analysts. And
Yeah.
David will be the analysand. And neither of us have heard David's dreams before, so this is fresh material, and we'll just see how it goes. Arielle and I have worked in a dream group together before, so we kind of have a flow with this. And David has also done dream work in a group with me once before, so he's got a little bit of experience, but less. So anyone can do it. Maybe a lesson there. Otherwise, I'm not going to be very didactic. You'll just see how it works. Okay. So thank you, David and Arielle, for being willing to participate. And I guess I'll just give it over to you, David, if you want to share your dreams. You said these are from last night.
Okay, last night
Okay.
I was having a dream that I was driving north on an I-35 like freeway. So I-35 is in Texas and there's lots of construction. It's a very busier freeway. I have a friend, Croy, who wrote a song that's called I Don't Want to Die on I-35. So that gives you an example of what I-35 is like. It's kind of a weirdly constructed thing. Okay. So I'm driving north on that freeway and I see several small wrecks. They're like almost like little things. And there's one guy underneath the car, maybe trying to fix it, but it's like a wreck. And it's just like, I'm trying to get around. And then I see a teenager, he's probably like a Mexican-American kid. He throws a styrofoam cup in the air out of frustration or something. I see a styrofoam cup flying in the air and I'm just driving through that. And then the visibility changes and then I can't see anymore. My eyes are open, but I'm asleep, and I'm like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. Hey, come on. And then of course I wake up. And that was last night. Of course, that was a portion of my night. And then I went back to sleep later. And should I continue?
Yeah, I'd say go for it. Mm-hmm.
But I wake up and then I go get water, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second portion of my night, there's like there's a lady doing spoken word. And there's something about it that I'm like, oh, this is, for what at the time in the dream, I maybe was thinking about the judgment of like, it's okay. It's not anything. It wasn't registering as anything that was like, oh, this is cool. And I have a conversation with a friend, a girl friend and then I think I was maybe kind of like in jest, but trying to make a point. And I was saying, oh, lyrics don't really matter. I was saying, oh, lyrics don't matter at all. And it's really, in music, lyrics don't matter. It's really about the song and the rhythm and all these other things. And maybe I was kind of like trying to prove a point or something like that, but it was friendly, but I could see it was like, friendly, but not like the most gentle thing. It was like fun, boisterous.
You were kind of saying like these lyrics aren't very good, but lyrics don't really matter.
I don't know, maybe.
Okay.
It was like an interesting way.
Okay. But it was in.
That's all that I have from last night. So
okay.
There's other stuff.
No, this is good.
Okay. Do you have a title for this dream?
No.
Could you come up with one? 14?
which is the 14th is what I saw the number. I was like, oh, the 14th, April 14th.
Okay.
It's a way to categorize the thing.
Oh, like you categorize it by the day. If you could come up with a title for this dream, what would you title it?
Driving north on I-35.
Fair enough.
Spoken word lady. You know, maybe the
Cool.
Let's see. Any symbols stand out? You could do each dream, like what symbol stood out the most?
symbol. I mean, I suppose the Rex, you know, maybe the styrofoam cup.
I was thinking the cup. And what about the second part? Any symbol?
Maybe like a stage. Yeah, I think that's something I didn't mention in the actual telling of it, but there's a stage.
Any colors? Prominent colors?
No, I guess the styrofoam cup is white. I mean, the kid's brown, like me.
Brown and white. Okay.
I think the spoken word lady was white.
Go ahead, you got one.
Yeah, do you remember how you felt when you woke up from both dreams? What it was like to wake up from them?
The driving dream, it's something that's happened before where I'm like, hey, come on, you're driving and your eyes are closed. You know, wake up. So when I woke up from that, I was like that kind of thing. I don't know if that's a feeling. It's, you know,
like
relief.
Or like, we got two totally different things from that.
I'm sorry. Say those two words. Relief and what?
I got exasperation. Arielle got relief.
Oh,
that's different.
I can see how those two could be. One would follow the other. Maybe relief. I don't know. It wasn't too charged. It was just like I'm awake. You know, I'm glad I wasn't really driving. But at the moment before waking up was like somewhat stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that happened before. Like, has it happened that you've like driven so long that you've like your eyes have started to close on the road, or like you've had dreams that end like that before?
Oh, both.
Both. Okay.
I mean, it hasn't. I've had very sleepy times on the road before, and that hasn't happened in many years. But I've also had dreams where I was asleep and driving, and I'm like, hey, I'm asleep. I can't. Hey, come on, wake up. Open your eyes. You know.
I feel compelled to say that David actually has a song that says, I had a dream I was driving and I fell asleep. Did you think about that, David? That's one of your lyrics.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that as I'm talking about it here. Yeah.
And that's probably also, so I want to ask the question, like, does any part of, you've already spoken to this a little bit, but does any part of this dream relate to your waking life? And so the conversation about music is relevant to your waking life because you are a musician. You mentioned the teenagers, Mexican American like you. Anything else relates to your waking life?
I mean, there's a stage, you know, there's a performance. We're talking about what matters, you know, lyrics don't matter. I think, yeah. I was kind of, you know.
Does that reflect your true feelings about lyrics?
No. I think that was just doing it to prove a point that they don't matter as much as we think they do.
Do you
but I think they matter.
If you're driving north on I-35, where are you going?
These days I'm going up to my parents' house because they live in North Austin. I live in South Austin.
Interesting. Interesting.
But if I was driving north anytime, I could be going to Dallas.
Sure.
What's the significance of Dallas?
I have an uncle and an aunt that live there, and I have lots of friends from there, and I've been there several times. There's like a whole Dallas vibe.
I'm there.
Catherine's from Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday I was talking to a friend. He's from Denton, and he was wearing a North Texas shirt, UNT, North Texas Mean Green. I was like, and I said something like, "Oh, you're one of those North Texas weirdos, aren't you?" He's like, "Yep."
It is sort of a weird part of a weird state.
Yeah.
What about, you said that you're talking with a friend at the spoken word concert. Is that a friend you actually know in waking life, or was it just a dream friend?
It was a dream friend. I couldn't peg them.
Okay. But it was a girl, a gal.
Yeah.
And the lady who was doing the spoken word, did she remind you of anyone?
No, not in real life. I don't know. I can't get a sense of it, honestly. I don't even see it. It's so hazy, you know. I mean, I wrote down spoken word lady here, but it's like, you know.
Well, okay. Yeah. I'm feeling like there's a lot to both of these. They're different though. So maybe we should we're talking about them like both dreams as one dream, but I kind of feel like at this point, maybe focusing on one and then going to the next. Does that feel okay to everybody? Okay. So let's just start with the first one. Any more questions for now, Arielle?
There might be more questions, but I don't have them in my head right now.
Okay. Well, you can jump in with those later. And David, you have anything else you want to clarify?
No.
Okay, let's dive in. So yeah, of course, I'm sort of joking, but also I do feel like there's something to this. If driving north on 35 these days means going typically to your parents' house, and there's a Mexican American teenager that you see, that's like one of the main characters of their dream. Yes.
Can I also clarify that going north on I-35 these days, since I just moved south, is pretty much going anywhere, actually. Going to Rich's house, going to like all of my friends' house. I went north on I-35 last night to go to Rich Russell's house.
Because
I haven't seen a lot of friends. Everybody is north on I-35, and that's kind of what I'm realizing now. Also.
Okay, that does change things. But your parents are north too. Your parents are north.
They're north. Everybody is. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's a good clarification, though. At any rate, I'm just gonna go with it. Okay, so your parents' house is north, as well as most of the city and friends and so forth. Everything is north. Family. The teenager that you see is Mexican American, and as you've already acknowledged, you are Mexican American too. And so this immediately
a different style than I am. Just he's like more like the kids that I teach. I know this is kind of weird distinction. Like I feel like I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, well, do you see where I'm going with this, David? I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you asked me if I wanted to clarify anything, and so I'm starting to like realize these distinctions, and so I wanted to clarify.
No, it's good. This is a good example of how it goes. Okay, because I'm thinking anyone in a dream who is younger than you is, to me, I'm going to go to, okay, what was going on for you in your life? But you're also talking about this is a different style of Mexican teenager. And so maybe this is something more like a student that you would teach in school or something like that. But at any rate, I'm still wondering what's going on. Can you just like describe in a nutshell, like really like in a nutshell, what your teenage years were like?
In a nutshell, I mean, teenage years were maybe frustrating, creative, you know, creative, frustrating, uh, outsider, as an outsider kid, you know.
What about at home? What was it like?
Um, my parents are pretty strict, so I spent a lot of time at home. I didn't wander too far. Yeah, I mean, I guess I did later high school, but you know, there's a gradation. I got a car eventually, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like you were like a little bit more sheltered than you would have chosen to be as a young creative person.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But well, okay. Hmm. I don't want to push it too hard, but I am just, it's occurring to me the kid is throwing the cup up in an act of frustration about the traffic. So
Mhm.
maybe something.
I think he may have gotten into one of the wrecks.
Mm, hmm, okay.
Yeah, and he's kind of more like he's got baggy. He's got like I mean, I wore baggy clothes too when I was a kid, but he's like a slightly different style of baggy, you know. But yeah,
But you're kind of
and
saying,
and honestly, I don't even know if it's frustration. It just seemed kind of like a, you know, like a, you know what I'm saying? Like not quite like, not angst, but like just like maybe carelessness, but also
Mm.
possibly frustration. You know, like the way that I'm seeing it, I'm like, is that frustration or is that carelessness or is that I can't quite tell.
like flippancy or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a teenager.
Mhm. And you work with teenagers? I didn't quite catch
Yeah,
that. Mhm.
yeah. Substitute high school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have to drive north on I-35 to get to work?
No,
No.
Mm.
no, no.
This is maybe a nothing question, but any association with styrofoam cups? Or what do you
Uh,
associate with them?
trash. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't really drink out of. I haven't drank out of a styrofoam cup in a little while. Probably in the last year.
Mhm.
I mean, I would.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't decompose. Styrofoam doesn't decompose.
yeah, it's like trash. I just think of it just as something that's just gonna stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Do you want to take that somewhere, Arielle? I feel like I could maybe venture some guesses.
Hmm. Um, I mean, I have associations with cups in general as like vessels, as the body, as a seat of soul. And so it's interesting to think about it as trash, but also as white and also something being discarded.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing out my associations now, though.
I also have associations with cars and the body. The
Hmm.
guy working under the car stands out to me.
Hmm.
Um, trying to fix it, trying to fix it. Um, so yeah, like at any rate, it's kind of there's something here about like, is this sometimes to me just roads can be kind of like the mind, especially like a city road being more like the intellectual thinking mind. And so like obviously traffic on this highway and wrecks on this highway are like a normal part of your everyday life, but symbolically if we're going to look at it that way, um, I am wondering what what might be okay, if this were my dream, I'm wondering why I might be having like frustration and backups and I don't know, how would I say collisions? Maybe it's like different thoughts or beliefs that are sort of colliding in my mind. Um, that being said, you could extend it. Oh, and I do want to say that I feel like it's relevant potentially to think about my own teenage years because a teenager stands out as a character in the dream and because my parents live north on this highway. So I'm just kind of thinking about that time in my life, the way I related to my parents. They were sort of a sheltering, conservative type of people, and I was more like a free spirit creative type. Okay, so I'm just thinking about that. And now here I am, I don't know, a little bit hemmed in just by virtue of being in traffic and being backed up on the highway. So maybe it's something like that going on in my thought process in my mind right now. Like, how is that relevant?
Mm.
Falling asleep or not being able to see, symbolically is like clear enough, but is there something that this dream is trying to show me that I'm not aware of? Because being asleep or not being able to see is like, not having clarity on something, being something I'm unconscious about something. Very often we are unconscious about things that happen in our childhood, things that happen in early life relating to family, just because it's like so much a part of our normal that we're not even questioning it, and it doesn't even become, something that we articulate or process. So all of this is kind of going through my mind on this particular dream.
Mm-hmm.
You can,
Yeah,
you can respond to that or not. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
yeah, it's a definitely worth considering and thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arielle, you want to feel free to take that in a totally different direction, because that could maybe bring us to more, because what I say is so general, but like maybe we can get a little bit more potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I like where you're going with that. Catherine has a lot of confidence in putting the things out there. I appreciate it sometimes. So thank you.
Too much, maybe sometimes.
No, I like it for me. I'm also noticing that, like, if this were my dream and I'm driving on the road, that I am like witnessing. So I'm both like taking in like angsty information or like wrecks and like discarding. I'm taking in information, but I'm still moving. So I'm thinking about it as something that I'm witnessing. And it's affecting me, but I'm not necessarily like participating in, like I'm moving alongside it. And I wonder about that in relation to falling asleep. Like, is there something in what I'm witnessing that is meaning that I have to fall asleep? And I was also sort of confused at the end of the dream because there was something like, I heard you say that I realized I'm asleep and I need to wake up, and you literally are asleep. And I was like, oh, is that a moment of lucidity in the dream? Like, I got a little bit confused. Like, did you kind of become lucid at the end of the dream, that you knew you were sleeping and you were trying to wake up, or was you were like falling deeper into another sleep?
Oh, good question. My experience at the time was like, hey, I need to wake up so I can see on this road. Yeah, I don't think that I was like, I need to wake up so I can participate in this dream,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
I also wonder about just directions, and different people have different associations with direction.
Oh, going north.
Yeah. Like, I know traditions that associate that direction with like earth element, with like different experiences of time. So that would kind of allow, like, overlap with what Catherine was saying about like sort of returning in time. But I'm also thinking of that like in different indigenous traditions as like a direction of spirit. I'm not super well versed in it, but I do know that there is significance to direction.
Well, David is,
When you said
yeah,
when you said the way that you said like if all these things that I'm taking in means I need to fall asleep, I thought that was for some reason that was like, oh, like
Okay.
it roused like something there. I was like, whoa,
Hmm. Okay.
that resonates. That
Okay.
strikes some kind of
yeah, that
chord.
felt resonant to me too. I mean, it's like, and potentially looping back to earlier times in our life when we have to kind of like zone out, tune out, because what we're taking in is just a little bit too much, but
Hmm.
then how that can repeat, and in a sense it's sort of replaying something from that time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Kind of get some better light in here.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, but David, do you have associations with the direction of north that you feel like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Not really. I guess right now when you say north, I think like plains, just like flatness or going somewhere where it's colder,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
Yeah, winter.
Hmm.
Okay, well, I'd say maybe that's good on that one.
Hmm.
um
You can see the possibilities though. All that. Yeah.
yeah, you can see the food for thought there. Okay, thanks. That's
Hmm.
nice. All right, dream number 2, spoken
Hmm.
word lady.
Hmm.
All right, and you've already said that the symbol that kind of stood out for that one was the stage. Did you have any kind of emotion, any feeling like in this dream or when you woke up from the dream?
When I woke up from the dream, no, not really. This one was, let me think. Sometimes when we see a performer, we can kind of either it resonates and we're like, oh, this is great, or it's not so good at all, and you're like, this is bad. And this is one of those occasions where it's like, oh, this is right down. It's not registering, right? It's indifferent. Yeah, indifference is the feeling of the performance. And the conversation with the friend was friendly, but also maybe a little bit like, and I don't even remember. This one was such a brief one that it was like, you know, I don't know, hard to register. It was friendly, but not confrontational at all, but like,
Sort of like ambivalent or something?
yeah, a little bit like that. Or
Do you ever do spoken word poetry?
no,
No.
I've done a poetry reading before, but I haven't done one in like 5 years.
But that a poetry reading is kind of different than spoken word in my mind.
Right.
Yes. Do you have any associations with the art form of spoken word poetry?
Um, it's honestly, it's pretty cool. I think it's not something that I would, it's not really, I'm not really a fan of it. But if, for instance, there were a spoken word poetry reading happening down the street, I'd probably walk down there and check it out. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm feeling curious, and I don't know, take it as an optional question, but I'm feeling curious about like how are you feeling toward your creative process and your relationship with your art these days, if it feels relevant to the dream.
Um, I mean, if you're asking that, yeah, there's a lot there. I'm feeling stifled creatively. I mean, not actually. Like, if how can you say it? I could tell you all about it. I've been doing a lot of remodeling type of work lately, and then also working at the school because we just have a lot of work to do, and that somehow has taken a priority over my creative work, and so that has created some frustration because there's no time to fit it in. When I do, I'm flowing, and it's a nice thing. But lately, it's been I've been struggling to find the time and the space to do it.
Yeah, I'm going in a similar direction, because there's different ways to take this, but if we're looking at the dream as all the characters are parts of myself, then the kind of not very good spoken word lady is a part of myself. And I guess even the friend who's a female friend is a feminine part of myself that I'm sort of experiencing and watching and judging this part with, so just kind of like being aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I would be curious about my own judgments of myself in terms of writing, specifically the lyrical part.
Yeah.
And it's because the last dream had two male characters, the man under the car and the teenager, and then this one has two female characters, the friend and the lady. They kind of feel like a nice pairing for some reason, but I'm definitely
Mhm.
thinking of this being more in an archetypally feminine mode of this is just potentially my more feeling emotional, visceral, um, potentially negative or judgmental, um, but also intuitive part that this dream is exploring. So
Mhm.
those are just things that I'm considering as I look at this.
Mhm. Something I'm harkening back to the first dream a little bit too. I focused on the car wrecks, but there was also a lot of construction going on too, right?
No.
No, okay.
In real life, there's construct. I was kind of discussing what this freeway is like.
Mhm.
It's just kind
Oh,
of, yeah. But in the dream, it was like all these little. It was almost like I was driving through an apocalyptic little wreck zone, like several of them. I'm like, why are there several in different areas? It's almost like little fires that were happening.
mhm,
You're in like a little movie, like whoa.
mhm, mhm. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate
I think.
it.
There was the one guy who was trying to fix the car, but yeah, it's interesting to think of it in terms of fires, because it's kind of like trying to put out little fires, but there's just like this like overarching fire that's just kind of
Yeah,
burning.
and I'm also wondering if the guy was trying to fix the car or if he was stuck under the car. It's kind of like,
Oh.
you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
really could have been either though. So no clarity on that.
I know.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. Do you want to speak to that? Do you get in this way of like you kind of have to just like maybe become a little bit sarcastic, um or dismissive of the process that is so dear to you? I know it is, of songwriting, like making music, like, oh, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really matter, just kind of like making fun of it, but like not making fun. I don't know. I get the feeling like that you're not making fun of it in this way that's like really warm. Like it's kind of like you just feel cold to it.
Yeah, yeah. In real life, coldness towards no. I mean, in the dream, I could see there was some like coldness. Is probably, yeah. I mean, thinking about it, it's probably just a projection of wanting that kind of like of wanting to be on the stage or something, being like, oh, I have this other thing that's a that's a greater, you know, I've got this other thing that could be shared at this moment, which would serve, you know, serve you well.
Whoa, that's cool. I like that. I like that you drew that out. So there's potentially a part of you as you're watching this performance, it's like, I could make better use of this time.
Maybe in the dream, yeah, and maybe that's like a hidden, latent judgment, you know, not something I'm proud of.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but then let's carry that out though into like, as the dream being like a reflection of the whole self, a mirror, you know, so
Yeah,
so there's definitely like, there is a part of me, if this were my dream, that knows I could be occupying this space, utilizing this energy and this venue, you know, this skill, these language, you know, I could be doing this,
stage.
the stage, yeah. I could be doing this, I could be staging this better than it's being staged right now. You know, like this lackluster thing could be better. Spoken word kind of reminds me of just like mental chatter. It's like, I could be doing something that like is a lot more rich than just kind of like mental chatter.
Although spoken word is, you know, people really, they emote, and you know, it's really, they use their bodies and everything, you know, like
That's true. That's true. It's performative.
yeah.
Well,
I
wait. Our minds do that too, though. Our minds get really like into
Performative.
stuff, you know, really mad about the traffic and the person and the thing.
Right. Yeah, it's an exposition, you know, an exposition of mind, kind of like what we're doing here.
Sorry, don't push it and go ahead, Arielle.
I will say my association with spoken word poetry, to just put this out there, is it is a much made fun of art form, right? Like it is really parodied a lot. People do clown on spoken word artists a lot. So
or at least
it
some people
wouldn't
do,
shock
yeah.
it wouldn't shock me if that was in a dream or if that was like part of a dream. Anyways, but I think I'm wondering about, if this were my dream, what is the difference for me between words and rhythm? And if I were a musician, which I'm not, who writes lyrics and plays music at the same time, like what do these components coming together do for me? And what does it do to my system when I say to myself, like, it's more important for me to focus on the rhythm?
Yeah. Lately I've been kind of going through this thing where it's like and I'm, you know, honestly, I still think it's not a bad thing, which is just to kind of going over every line and just being mindful of every line and looking at every word in the line. And it's kind of, it's a good thing, but it's also can lend itself to perfectionism and like harping on something where you need to move on, you know, because there's no right or wrong. You know, all there is does this have power or feeling, or is this able to evoke something? And so it's just a balance. So do words matter? You know, in one way they don't as much. You know, it's really about the rhythm and the melody. Those are the things that really draw it out. But then, do words matter? Oh, you know, of course they do. You have your own experience of that, and you know that it matters. You know.
If it were my dream, the way that I'm reading this dream is I have like, it feels like a message to me. Like the words that you're saying feel like I'm hearing them as a message. I don't know how that feels for you, but I'm hearing that as instructive to me,
Ah,
and I'm listening in that kind of way for like, what do I need to hear from this? But I don't know if it resonates with you in that way.
oh yeah, that resonates. I don't know exactly how, but it does.
Mhm.
I don't know. When you're saying it, I'm like, oh, that's true. There's truth there. I'm like, that's truthful. And then I think about it, I'm like, oh, how? And maybe it's just something that I'll process and, report back
Yeah.
outside of, this video 2 days later,
Wow.
you know.
Well, that might bring, uh, go ahead, Arielle, if you got something more, but this
I've got
gets
one more.
to a question. Okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, I've got one more thing, which is it's making me think about another much maligned and clowned down musical artist in the world, named John Mayer. I listened to an interview with him recently where he was talking about music and flow as sort of like as water or like as energy and kind of like a car. So I'm bringing it up because I'm thinking about that road too. And the thing that he described as like my job lyrically is to make sure that what did he say? It was something like all the energy that's at the beginning of the song, that's like the potential at the beginning of the sentence, needs to like flow all the way to the end. And if I have like syllables in the middle that catch the energy, it doesn't all get there and it doesn't all make it to the end of the song. And I'd never heard something like lyrics and rhythm like come together in an image form for me like that. So I just felt compelled to share that with you. That was sort of like a combination of the things that you were describing.
He's like a really, that right there is a really good example of getting instruction from someone or something that I think is just kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this idea
Good
of
idea.
of lyrics or words, perhaps
Yeah.
paralleling from the second dream, paralleling the roads of the first dream.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts, I would throw thoughts in there too, and potentially memories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there actually is a question, David, you're kind of alluding to this, but there is a question that we typically ask at the end of a dream, and that is there some way that you could say right now, that something you can do to honor the message of one or both of these dreams?
Yeah. Well, what I'm gathering is that what I'm really feeling is like, oh, this stuff is important, or the message, what Arielle was saying about, there's some instruction here about what am I hearing, which is to, I hate to bring up like Nike, but like just do it or whatever, just kind of do your thing, like will you just do it? I don't know. That's just kind of just do it without, yeah, too much complaint.
Yeah, I think that's a nice affirmation.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
That's more from the second dream. What about the first dream? Just curious if you think there's a way you might honor the first dream.
Yeah, when the visibility starts to change and I start to fall asleep is when I'm past all the wrecks, and that's when I want to wake up. I guess that's just, for me. It's just like, okay, well, the road has obstacles, and at least I'm in the car for now. I don't know. Yeah, just yeah. I mean, continue on. Continue on. Maybe keep
Yeah,
on doing.
at least you're alive. If the car is a symbol for the body, at least you're still alive doing it.
And when I was falling asleep at the end of that dream, there's always a sense when this is happening, because this has happened several times. I'm like, okay, I'm asleep, but maybe the car is just going to keep course. Like there's always this feeling like, okay, so I can't open my eyes. Like I'm really lucky right now that I haven't hit anything, and like, usually somehow I get through this. There was that slight recognition in there that somehow cruise control was gonna stay between the lanes.
Oh, well, you thought that in the dream? You thought
Oh,
that typically
the
you would
hope.
do this?
Yeah, there was a hope. There's always this hope that like, or this feeling like this has happened before, and I don't know how the hell I don't get into a wreck. And
Mm,
that's like a split second thought, which is like, how the hell do I not wreck this thing when I'm falling asleep on the road? How do I? It's so crazy that I've stayed on the road every single time this happened, which really just means I wake up.
Again, David, I feel like I really am liking just you kind of digging into these dreams and articulating more and more like your sense of them. I feel like that alone is one of the best aspects of this work. But like, yeah, I don't know, just what you're saying feels really key.
Mhm.
Hmm, cool.
It's like, you know, I've been through this before, either in sometime in my life or potentially in past lives. You know, I've been through it where it's kind of just like chaos and destruction everywhere, and I've made it, you know. So just kind of like having faith and trusting the path and trusting the way and continuing, and just being grateful that you've made it this far, you know, and kind of like having hope or faith or trust or whatever that you'll make it that far again. It's nice.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, not so bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's on the surface, it seems like, oh, this is maybe a stress dream or something like that. But um, and maybe it is. I'm not saying it's not that's not
Yeah.
part of it. But there, it seems like what you've just drawn out is like something that's a bit more transcendent feature of it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay. Any closing thoughts? David, what was it like to have your dreams analyzed? I'm so curious.
It's cool. Yeah, it makes me want to come back for more. You guys want to do another one? I have this one from April 8th that I was like, I was jonesing to share that one, and then you were like last night, and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, really? Well,
Well,
oh, we are too far in. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, it's time for dinner and stuff.
This is our dinner and stuff. Okay. No, I'm sorry that, but yeah, okay, cool. Well, I'm glad it inspired a yearning for more.
Yeah, it's cool. Great.
Okay. Well, thank you all both for doing this.
Mhm.
Thank
Um,
you.
it's a vulnerable act to offer interpretation and to have your material interpreted. So yeah, thanks. And thank you, YouTube audience, for watching. I hope this has been helpful in some form or fashion.
Mhm.